This was not just another missile attack. This was a message. 300 missiles fired in waves across one of the most defended countries on Earth. And yet, some of them still got through. But here's what no one is telling you. This attack didn't begin when the missiles launched. It began days earlier, in silence, in planning, in calculation. And by the time the first sirens went off, the outcome was already decided. We are now deep into a war, not a crisis, not an escalation, a full-scale, multi-theater war that is spreading faster than anyone expected.
This morning, the clock is ticking down to a new deadline in the Middle East. President Trump has given Iran until tonight to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical shipping lane for global oil supplies. Or, he says, the U.S. will obliterate Iran's power plants. But Iran, defiant, threatening to respond by hitting target water and energy sites across the Mideast.
The danger with attacking infrastructure is that your infrastructure can be hit in return. So in the Gulf states, not only is it the oil and gas, which is the lifeblood of those countries, but it's the desalination plants, where they get their water. They're known targets, and they're not hard for the Iranians to hit.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defending President Trump's strategy.
Sometimes you have to escalate to de-escalate.
Analysts warn today is the day average gas prices in the U.S. could top $4 per gallon. The average was below $3 before the war. These states across the South and Southwest are seeing some of the steepest increases at the pump.
The gas prices are ridiculous. You know, we have a lot of people who are out here really surviving, and groceries are high. Now the gas prices are increasing.
Meanwhile, Iran again targeting Israel. A ballistic missile slamming into the city of Dimona, and a second Iranian strike in the nearby city of Arad, both near an Israeli nuclear research center. Both hitting residential neighborhoods, injuring dozens.
Look at the way the blast ripped away the facade of that building. The missile hit here, right in amongst these residential blocks. We're told dozens of people, families were inside at the time. This could have been much worse.
It started on February 28th, a surprise assault. The United States and Israel launched a coordinated attack on Iran. Targets, nuclear sites, military command, and even leadership. The goal was simple: remove Iran's ability to fight, shock the system, force collapse. But something unexpected happened. Iran didn't collapse, it answered. By day 10, Iran had fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Not randomly, not emotionally, but systematically. And that's where the real story begins. Because those 300 missiles were not just weapons, they were a test of Israel's defense system, a test of timing, a test of endurance. And this is where things get dangerous. Nearly half of those missiles carried cluster payloads. Not one explosion, but dozens, each missile breaking into multiple warheads midair, spreading destruction across wide areas. And once those submunitions were released, interception dropped to zero. Zero, think about that. The most advanced defense systems in the world, unable to stop what comes next. But here's the part most people missed. This wasn't the first move. It was the third. Iran didn't start with missiles. It started with blindness. Phase 1, target the eyes, radar systems, early warning sensors, detection networks. Because without detection, there is no defense. And then something changed. Phase 2 began. Continuous pressure, missiles, drones, alerts, thousands of them. Over 65,000 alerts in just days. Every alert forcing Israel's systems to activate. Every activation costing money, fuel, interceptors, and human focus. This wasn't about destruction, it was about exhaustion. Wearing the system down, draining it, pushing it to its limits, and only then. Phase 3, the cluster missiles, released when defenses were weakest, when reaction time was reduced, when interceptors were running low. This wasn't chaos, this was engineering. At the same time, Israel was striking back, hard. Israel claimed it hit a secret Iranian nuclear site, a facility believed to be developing key components for nuclear weapons, and in a massive air campaign. The Israeli Air Force carried out over 1,600 sorties, destroying around 300 Iranian missile launchers. On paper, that sounds decisive, but here's the problem. Iran's missile inventory is massive, thousands of missiles.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Review on World is One. I'm Kripa and we bring you the latest developments from around the world, but first the headlines. The International Maritime Organization discusses the West Asia war. Iran's representative says Israel and the US attacks are the root of the current situation in the Strait of Hormuz, reiterating that ships except those of its enemies can pass amid Trump's 48-hour deadline to reopen the crucial waterway. Iranian missiles hit the southern Israeli town of Dimona near a nuclear facility. Iranian state TV says the strike is in response to an attack on the Natanz nuclear facility. At least 100 casualties reported so far. Explosion heard in multiple locations across Iran as the IRGC continues its retaliatory strikes against US and Israeli targets. The United Arab Emirates says its air defenses are responding to Iranian aerial attacks. Explains sounds heard are the result of the air defense systems intercepting missiles and drones. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense says 3 ballistic missiles detected around capital Riyadh, 1 intercepted and 2 fall in uninhabited area. Hundreds march in central Madrid to protest against the ongoing war in West Asia, hold banners, chant slogans against Trump and Netanyahu. At least 2 skiers killed, 3 others in critical condition after an avalanche in northern Italy. India will withdraw temporary caps on domestic airfares from March 23, introduced after flight disruptions in December. The move follows stabilized operations, allowing airlines pricing flexibility while ensuring fares remain reasonable.
and the launchers destroyed just a fraction, which means even under heavy attack, Iran kept firing, and then the war stopped being local. It spread. Iran didn't just hit Israel, it hit across the region, US bases, Gulf countries. Multiple nations pulled into the conflict, at least a dozen countries now affected. This is no longer a two-sided war. This is a chain reaction. And while missiles were falling on land, something even bigger was happening at sea. And the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important waterways on Earth, 20% of the world's energy flows through it, and now it's effectively paralyzed. Hundreds of ships stuck, waiting, not because they were attacked, but because of risk. Insurance companies pulled back, costs exploded, and suddenly, moving oil became economically impossible. This is where the war changes, because now it's not just military, it's economic, global, and unavoidable. Before this war even started, the warnings were clear. US military leaders predicted everything: missiles, drones, strait disruption, all of it. But the assumption Iran would surrender quickly before things escalated, that assumption was wrong. Instead of collapsing, Iran adapted, unified, reorganized leadership, and continued fighting. This wasn't a breakdown, it was consolidation. But here's what no one is saying out loud. The missiles used so far, old, outdated. Iran hasn't even used its most advanced weapons yet. Let that sink in. Everything you've seen is not the peak, it's the beginning. And somewhere, hidden, stored, waiting, are missiles that haven't been launched, yet behind all the strategy, there is a cost. Hundreds of thousands affected, cities damaged, lives changed forever. Because wars are not just fought by governments, they are paid for by people everywhere. So now we are here. 300 missiles fired, defense systems strained, global trade disrupted, multiple countries pulled in, and both sides still standing, still escalating. But the real question is not what has happened, it's what comes next. Because if this was phase 3, what does phase 4 look like? And when it begins, will anyone be able to stop it, or are we already too far in?